Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to walk you through my first full summer and fall chasing walleye from the kayak. What I learned, what worked, and honestly, what I wish I knew sooner. I fished one lake exclusively this year, Lake Francis. Now this lake is clear water, deep weeds, and sometimes very picky walleye. That's a fish. But it is an awesome place to learn. So let's start with summer. The water on Lake Francis was clear for most of the season, and the weeds grew fairly deep. I'm talking 20 to 23 feet of water. By the end of summer, the water temps felt like they were somewhere in the mid-70s, and the fish were sitting right on those transition lines from tall weeds to open mudflats. And this is where I learned my first big lesson of walleye fishing. Number one, you have to know what they want. And in the summer on this lake, they wanted one thing: bottom bouncing. So here's the system that finally worked for me. I ran a 6.5 foot casting rod with a size 10 casting reel for bottom bouncing. Could I've used a spinning rod? Absolutely. But casting gear sits way more flush in a rod holder, and when you're on a kayak, comfort and angle matter. Now I used green blades with a green float, then that color combo was hands down the most productive for me. On the business end, I ran two size 2 slow death hooks loaded up with a nightcrawler. In 23 feet of water, 1.5 ounce of weight works, but honestly, you want 2 to 2.5 ounces to stay vertical and stay consistent. And the coolest part, in August, I caught my first ever walleye on a bottom bouncer. Yeah, that's a fish, baby! Hell yeah, that's a fucking walleye! Yes, sir! Yes! 22 feet of water, green blades, slow death hooks, and that was the moment I realized, yeah, this actually works. It was one of those moments where everything just clicks. Now, part of what made this season so much smoother was upgrading my kayak. Last year, I had a run-of-the-mill, sit-inside yellow kayak, and it worked, but I was always worried about stability, storage, and honestly flipping if the wind picked up. This year, I moved to the Pelican Hydrive II, 11 foot, a sit-on-top pedal kayak, and the difference was insane. More deck space, better gear organization, and the pedal drive meant I could bottom bounce the right way. Slow, controlled, and steady. And being able to pedal into the wind, total game changer. Another massive lesson I learned is this: when you're kayak fishing, your launch point can save you hours of pedaling or paddling. Lake Francis has a few options. You can launch from the island, but you're going to be dealing with boat traffic and a long trip to the walleye grounds. You can even launch from the dam, but again, you run into that same issue, boat traffic, and even longer distance to get to the walleye grounds. I found it way better to launch north of the island. Quicker access, less traffic, and honestly just safer. Before you start fishing any new lake, pull up the map and find the closest public access point to where you want to fish. Your legs will thank you later. And let's talk about the wind, because it's either your friend or your mortal enemy. On windy days, bottom bouncing is your best friend if you don't have an anchor system. Set your drift, let the wind push you, and cover ground. When the drift ends, pedal back, reset, and do it again. But if you want to be more precise with your speed, you have to pedal into the wind. It's a workout, but a walleye catching workout. As summer faded and fall rolled in, the pattern changed. And so did what the walleye wanted. This leads to lesson number 2. Always know the depth they're in. Walleye move, and keeping your eye on depth is huge. My fish finder helped, but honestly, just understanding the structure, weeds, mudflats, drop-offs, that's what mattered most. In the fall, the jigging bite finally turned on, and that's when I caught one of my favorite fish of the whole year, my first walleye on a jigging rap. I was throwing a 5/8 ounce Rapala Jigging Rap in Purpledescent, and that curler just hammered fish. If you want a break from bottom bouncing, jigging raps are the perfect change-up in the fall. So that was my first summer and fall chasing walleye on Lake Francis from the kayak. Bottom bouncing owned the summer, jigging owned the fall, and the biggest things I learned were simple. Know what they want, fish the depth they're in, and pick the right launch spot so you aren't paddling for miles. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what your go-to walleye technique is. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out on the water.